Good morning.
Good morning.
We are ready for another episode of the Shanks Show with Andrea Ferguson and Shanka Poncelé. And today we're going to talk about two ways to tell your consultants, the firms and businesses you hire to help you to grow, how to tell that they are up to date. So, again, two ways to tell your consultants are up to date. And this is brought to you by Shanks, live from San Antonio. If you want to know how to grow and how to build an online visibility and how to really be efficient in taking your business to the next level, go check out our shanks.club, SHANKX.club. Andrea, we know that it is really, really important to, and this really goes two ways. We as a company, Shanks, we have been very successful, and some of that success reflects in our yearly revenue. And that's kind of a way we measure what we do. And we are on track to breaking $1 million next year. And in doing so, we offer services and receive services. And so we are on both ends where we need to always be able to judge and assess whether we and the consultants we hire are up to date. So why would you say is that so important for our operations and really everybody's operation?
Staying up to date is crucial. I don't know anybody that wants to deal with last year's or even the year before that or the year before that way of doing it. Do you want to drive a car from 1993? Or would you rather drive a car from 2023? Budget aside, preference aside, like, oh, this is like such a super cool car. But everybody wants the latest, the greatest, stay up to date because it's a vehicle that's going to get you somewhere with a certain quality, with a certain, um, you know, peace of mind. It's newer. It's not going to, the wagon wheels aren't going to fall off. It's going to get you to your destination. And if you think about it, we're always receiving updates to our devices, updates to uh, anything, any basically anything that has some kind of that's an electronic anything always has an update because the importance cannot be overstated. How important it is to be current, to be relevant. Maybe there's a new pothole in the street that wasn't there yesterday. You want your GPS to be updated. And I sort of feel like it's the same thing in what we're talking about right now. You are trying to figure out, let's say you know where you are, what your desired arrival time is, or whatever. And the way that you get there is going to largely be centered around the landscape that you're living in 2022, 2023, whatever. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that is a great analogy, Andrea, and it makes me think of the new electric Mustang that we got, which is really interesting because um, when we decided to make our primary car an electric one, everybody, including ourselves, was a little bit hesitant, not sure whether that is the right way to go. Not sure if the technology is where it needs to be. And then you climb into that vehicle that truly, for anyone who owns an electric vehicle and they know compared to the combustion engine, it is just worlds apart. The experience you have in an electric vehicle in our Ford Mustang Mach-E is just, you cannot really, traditional cars have no chance. The driving experience, the technology in there, the comfort, the acceleration. I mean, it is just impossible to match it with other cars, in my humble
You
opinion.
sure? You sure
So,
you don't want to exchange it for 1993?
no, absolutely not. um, but one thing that you mentioned is really interesting, and that is every so often, sometimes it happens weekly, sometimes monthly, there's an update that gets downloaded into the firmware of the car overnight. And then you wake up and all of a sudden your car is smarter. It is more there's no fuel. It is more energy efficient. It has better features. It reacts better to the input you give it through the pedals. And it's just overall feels like you have gotten a new car all over again. And
And
that
you're
is
able to find
something,
your way.
yeah. The navigation system is really absolutely incredible, real time information, and it includes, if you drive farther distances, it includes the charging stations. It knows, okay, you need to also get back home, so you might want to charge at that time, and so on and so forth. So the point is that that car does something that I want to talk about, which would be the first way. And that is, it almost on a weekly or monthly basis has a new approach, or adds a feature, not a feature, adds a way of doing things to one main primary goal. And that is really important. When you hire a company to give you online visibility, then there's a way to do that. But every so often, you need an update to that approach. And that is particularly true when it comes to online visibility. We are talking all these fancy terms of SEO, of impressions, of cost per click, of user engagement, all of those things. And we all know about the algorithms and about the trends to follow. I mean, and there's a world of knowledge buried in there depending on which platform you focus on. SEO always evolves, local search always evolves, trends always evolve, and you have to work with a vendor, a company that on a regular basis will come and tell you, listen, this is still our primary goal. We are contracted to do SEO. But what we did last month or the year before is no longer the up-to-date version to do it. So we need to make that adjustment. And you, as a client, need to be open to implementing the adjustment and also willing to listen to us, because we are the experts.
Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
so you want to be that, and you also want your consultants to be that, and
Yep.
you got to be minded, and it's a two-way street.
I just wanted to add earlier in that analogy where I said, maybe there's a pothole that's now in the street because they're doing some kind of construction on the road and it didn't exist yesterday, but you didn't know it because it didn't show up on your GPS because you didn't update it. Or I can't tell you how many
Yeah,
times
I
we've
love
had
that.
how many times we've had problems with clients not being able to use a certain feature on a platform, LinkedIn or anything, because they, maybe not LinkedIn, but when they don't update their phones, they don't have access to certain features. It's literally not available to you. I know we have all had this problem, especially if you're an Apple user and you're not updating constantly. You
Yeah,
literally at some point lose access because it's not up to date. And I
yeah,
think that when you're working with a consultant, your job is to trust your consultant, but trusting, like, let me explain. Okay, so when we talk about experimentation, we're it's really important to understand the reasons why we're experimenting. And if you really, really trust who you're dealing with, you'll understand that failure is a good thing.
Yeah.
You want to fail, you want to experiment. And I know you love talking about this. Your analytical mind can go super far, further than me with this. But I just feel like if you don't listen to the consultant that's saying, hey, there's a pothole in the middle of the street, and we know this because we're using the most up-to-date software or GPS or firmware, whatever, you should listen to us or we're going to fall. And they're, nah, well, I don't really see that right now on mine, but maybe your view is a little bit dimmer or you don't have all of the information. And that's what you're paying us for anyway. So I think that there's something to be said about also, it's kind of a different topic, but yeah, experimenting and why it's important to embrace the new approaches and the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is absolutely true. Let's say you have 100% bandwidth of doing something the way you absolutely know for sure that it works. You need to always take 10% of your operations and experiment with it. And by experimentation, we don't mean just going blindly and trying something. We mean take something that we know is a trend or a new development in our industry and then apply it to that 10% and then look closely at the metrics to see whether it makes a difference. Because in online visibility and public relations and outreach, every percentage counts. That a person that you get in front of on additionally might be the person that is going to purchase from you or work with you. And of course, so the first way is you gotta have a consultant who comes every now and then and says, hey, we're gonna try a new approach to this. Okay, so that's the first way to tell that they are up to date. Now we'll transition into the second part, and that is really a prerequisite of being able to tell you, hey, let's try something new. They need to constantly be scouring their field, their industry for those new trends and for that new knowledge. They need to never rest and never say, oh, I know everything now. No, they need to invest into what is known in business speak as research and development. 10%,
Oh,
10% of a company's budget and resources, whatever form, whether that's time or money or personnel, 10% needs to always go into research and development. And that means, I can tell you what it means for us, Andrea. We spend 10% of our time and of our money into being part of cutting edge think tanks, mentorship programs, courses where we always learn every day before we go live and record this segment. We do that.
yeah. And can I just say something? When you imagine a glacier or an iceberg, and they have that reference, so it's half above water, it's half below, and you see everybody sees the results, like, oh, here, that's what it is, but they don't know how deep it goes. And I mean, just
Yes.
the little bitty tip of the iceberg, and to let you know how rapidly things change, is to just
Yes.
find out something so simple as a hashtag on social has been what they call shadow banned. And maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
because it's been hijacked inappropriately, it's now vulgar, or it's been used for whatever, and you're sitting there trying to
Mm-hmm.
understand, why isn't my post getting shown? And again, this is the tippy tip of the iceberg. Well,
Yeah.
if you had known, if you had researched or stayed up to date, you'd know that's not something you can use and get visibility on it. Or
Yeah.
that now the situation has changed where long form content is only respected on certain platforms, but
Yeah.
other areas you want it to be shorter. And then there's a difference between video and written text. So
Yeah.
there's all of these little nuances and things that the iceberg goes very, very deep, but you don't
Yeah.
have the time to invest in looking at all those things, nor should you. I don't
Yeah.
encourage you to go digging down a rabbit hole, because not every every person or entity that claims to be an expert is, and then
Mm-hmm.
also you don't know where to go or how to necessarily implement it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly why you work with experts, right? Because you want them to be the expert. You want them to know what they're doing. And the irony is that very often you hire someone wanting them to know what they're doing, and then, and everybody is guilty of that, and then you act as if you knew better, and you actually
Yeah.
inhibit the people you hire to do what
Yeah.
yeah. So it's really comes down to, also, I like your glacier metaphor there a lot, because there is we as consumers of services and goods, we see the tip, and in a sense we
Hmm.
only want to see the tip. We go and look at the beauty, the might of the iceberg, but there's this whole big block of substance and ice underwater, and that is super important, because the peak wouldn't reach out of the water if it wasn't there.
Correct.
So um, and that would be the second way to tell that your consultant is up to date, is by knowing that they invest 10% of their resources into basically continuous education, if you will, masterminding, think tanking with experts in their field, with their peers. I mean, if you think about it, that's what everybody agrees, that scientists and researchers of renowned institutions, they are definitely expert. Like, it's literally the definition of a scientist and a researcher is implicitly an expert.
Oh, yes.
And what they have as a principle is peer review. And also whenever
Absolutely.
they put out a new principle or a new paper, it is typically based on the work of their predecessors, and then they say, okay, this is true, but we have found that if you tweak this a little bit, then you get even
Oh
better
my goodness,
results,
that's
or
perfect. Go ahead.
sometimes they find out what we knew 20 years ago, thinking that smoking is healthy, that was actually bullshit, and
Yeah.
we're no longer doing that.
Yeah. So we'll leave you with this. Who doesn't
Yes.
love HubSpot? A marketing experiment is a form of market research in which your goal is to discover new strategies for future campaigns or validate existing ones. For instance, a marketing team might create and send emails to a small segment of their readership to gauge engagement rates before adding them to a campaign. So if you let us experiment, we can find out what works and what doesn't and stay up to date. And then lastly, of course, the 10% of the resources includes the day, the part of your day, and the budget, which I think is super important. And I love so much that we've had this conversation. I hope it clears the air in terms of the reasons why you need to not be afraid to take a new approach. Go with your consultant, go with them and trust them, and don't be afraid for them to come back and say, hey, listen, this isn't working. We're going to pivot, because in the end, it will be good for you. You'll learn a lot about yourself, about what's happening in your industry too, because we stay up to date with that too. And you'll continue to achieve your goals.
Yes, and here's what I want to do for you right now. I want to give you a tool to do your research and development. Take 10%. You probably take 0.001% of your resources, and go to shanks.club, SHANKX.club, and sign up for the research that I do every single day that you probably don't have the time to do. And once a week, I release the results of my findings. How is that? How awesome is that? Go there, $27 a month only. And if you use the coupon code LIVE, LIVE, because I want to reward you for having stuck around so long, this drops down to only $7 a month. and you can cancel at any time. Just go check it out. Be part of our awesome community that is absolutely up to date. Andrea and Shankar signing off. Have a wonderful day.
Bye bye.